So what we decided to do today was to combine vocational talk with the program for today. So Abul is going to start by doing a vocational talk, and so tell us a little bit about the history and his history, and then we can talk about the update of International Village Clinic. And what we decided was that Abul needed no introduction, so I'm not going to waste any more of your time with that and let you hear Abul, which is much more interesting than me. Thank you, Abul.
And this was the first time with an introduction the president talked about what I was doing in India with the statistics, which is really more important to me than myself or my own history. So thank you very much, Mary, for taking the time. You know, this is really my day in a way, which was the first award. Oh, again, here, I better take it in my hand. Yeah, for the Rotarian Award, a gift of the year or whatever it's called, and then my vocation, and then the presentation. But I have to tell you, I've been here, I think, about 15 years now with Bloomington Rotary. And all these years since we started this vocational talk, I kept waiting and waiting and waiting till my time comes. Many people who came way after me came here to talk about vocation, but I wasn't getting the opportunity. And I thought maybe they just don't like me. Or worse than that, maybe they think I don't have a vocation. And so no one asks me to talk. Well, today, thank you, Mary. Last week when you said, Abul, it's your vocational task, I had to grab a chair before I fall, before I collapse. And today, I'm really relieved and emancipated. So now I can go home tonight and sleep in peace. Thank you very much, folks. Now, talking a little bit about my vocation, you have heard me so many times in the last few years that I don't think I have anything particular to say except that maybe there are some new members here too, so I'll share with you a little bit about where I came from, what my vocation was, and then get into the program update. Also, for the program update, I was thinking of doing something else, but since there are a few new members, I thought I'll do a presentation that will pretty well show you from the beginning what we have done and where we are. So regarding vocation, I should go to the next slide. This is the map of India, which you probably all are familiar with. I was born in this eastern end of Uttar Pradesh. That's the name of the state. We have 38 states in India. This is the largest state population-wise, and it will be hard for you to guess. It's about 9% larger in area than Minnesota. And the population is 50 times. Here we have 5 million people. There we have over 200 million people. So you can imagine the problems and so forth. But nevertheless, this is where I was born. My father passed away when I was 6 years of age. And since we were not rich in the village, it was a sleepy village, about 100 homes. My future was to end up helping the family with the farming or whatever business we had. I didn't even know at that time what we were doing. But it so happened, and I thought, I didn't even think, but now thinking back, when I started thinking, I didn't have a chance for education even in India. But things worked out. Later on, my mother told me when I was about 9 or 10 or 11, whatever, that in my father's funeral, all kinds of relatives came, close far relatives. And one of them was my brother-in-law. We were 7 brothers and sisters, 3 sisters. And this brother-in-law was the only person in the whole extended family who had a college education. He was a school teacher. So apparently, he came to my mother after the funeral and talked to her and said, look, if this kid stayed here, he has no future. He will never go to school, even 3rd, 4th, 5th standard. So how about if you send him with me? And it was my sister and brother-in-law, so I went with them at the age of 6, where he was teaching, which was, about 100 miles from where we lived, but that was like 1,000 miles off today. It took you 2 days to get there. So anyhow, that's where I grew up with my brother-in-law. And as you know, in those circumstances, you have to be really, I'm looking for that word, you have to have the instinct for survival, because there are so many occasions when it's really, you need survival. And one of them happened where with this instinct to survive, I walked almost into death. And the reason was that even though I was born in a village right on the bank of Ganges, I didn't know how to swim. When I went to my brother-in-law's place, the Ganges was close to there too, and when I was about 9 years of age, the kids with me, older and younger, they went to take a bath in the river, and I used to go there too. One day, nice morning, sunny, there was a large boat standing about 100 yards from the bank of the river. And the larger kids, they went there and got up on the boat. Apparently, there was no one there. It was 100 yards away because that's where the deep water was. So they started diving from the boat, and it looked pretty neat. So I asked one of the kids, hey, could you take me to that boat? And he said, yeah, I can't exactly remember whether on his back or how he took me there. I got on the boat, and after they jumped, I jumped too. Well, I did the jump all right, but once I hit the water, I started sinking, and I didn't know what the heck to do. I threw up my arms, legs, everything that I could, but no one came to help. And there were no beach guards there to help you. So for a couple of minutes, I don't know how I turned out alive. I just kept working on it, not knowing how to swim, and touched the ground, and thank God. So with that instinct, maybe it was instinct to survival that got me there. In any case, from there on, I graduated high school and then went to college in India, got an engineering degree, and then got a scholarship to go to Japan for a master's degree. And after finishing that, I got a scholarship to go to Canada for a Ph.D. program. So I went to Canada, finished my Ph.D., and taught there at the University of Quebec for a year, and migrated to the United States in 1972. Came to Bloomington, never left Bloomington. I'm one of the oldest Bloomingtonians here, I think. Never left. In the meantime, there were a couple of funny things that happened that I would share with you. When I went to Canada, to the graduate school, they had a little room where kids got together, the graduate students, and for a coffee. And this was my 3rd or 4th day, and we were talking, and I said something, and this guy says, "You're nuts." And I said, "What? How can I be nuts?" Oh, he said, "Yes, you're nuts." And I thought, heck, what is that? The only 2 nuts I knew were peanuts and walnuts. Where the hell the nut came from? Well, eventually I found out what nuts meant in America. I knew English language because under British rule, you know, we were supposed to learn English from when we were kids, but not the slangs here. So that was the first lesson coming to North America. And then I thought now I had everything under control. When I came to the United States, again, a few days later at the company where I worked, we were talking, and I said, hey, I don't quite remember what we were talking. Someone said something, and I said, oh, you went there, eh? And they all in a unison, everyone said, eh? Then I learned, hey, this is Canadian slang. It doesn't work in the United States. So anyhow, that's how my upbringing was, and here I worked for Honeywell for a number of years. At Tectonics Research, I was their vice president. Later at Honeywell, I was in program management and then international marketing, and then moved to MTS to develop international business all the way from Australia, China, Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, Taiwan, Korea, India, then Europe. So pretty well traveled the whole world doing business, not just traveling for fun, but doing business. And of course, finally ended up here. Now, switching over to the project, this is where, as I said, I was born and grew up. There are always some reasons why you get into something which is so different from being an engineer, doing this social work. And this goes back to 25 years or so. I was working out in my basement in Bloomington, my home, and as most of us do, I was reflecting on my life, and I said, Abul, you should never forget that you were not the brightest kid out of India. There are 1 billion people there. It may be luck, opportunity, timing, what it was, I don't know, that gave me the chance to come out of a sleepy little village in India, in the boondocks, to get education there, in Japan, in Canada, and then work for these great companies in the United States. And so I said, I must give back at some point in time. This was 30 years ago. And then the second opportunity, not the opportunity, but the episode that I'm sure led me to this was in 2006, I met Mother Teresa. I was on a business trip to India, and I had never been to Calcutta before in my life, but my meeting was in Calcutta. And I was a great admirer of Mother Teresa ever since I came to the United States. I read about her, and I met her there. I had half an hour with her. It's a story in itself how I met, but I'll not talk about it right now for the sake of time. But I'm sure that that half hour with her is a big factor in what I'm doing today. There is no question about it, as you can tell. She can see she was about here, but she was bigger than life. And her words of wisdom and encouragement got me into what I'm doing today. Now, the next thing, so while working at MTS in 1999, I quit my job, founded International Village Clinic, the nonprofit here, and wanted to work in India to help them. But I hadn't seen India much. I left when I was a kid, 16, 17 years old, so I went away for 3 months to see what was going on there. And in those 3 months, I was simply exploring, talking to people, trying to understand, hey, should I really do it? It may be a drop in the ocean. It's such a big country. How much can I help? This was, in those 3 months, I met this doctor who is a top eye surgeon in Veranasi city, which is about 30 miles from our villages. And he has all kinds of money, but he does a free clinic once every month in some remote small village. So I tagged along with him on this day. He had 3 hours there at the village, 200 patients waiting for him. Patients started coming till this girl came about 5 years of age with her parents. He examined her, and within 20 seconds he said, to the parents she will be blind for the rest of her life. Well, I thought, okay, there's some problem with her eyes. Again, a few more patients came. Another kid about the same age, and he said the same thing. Kid will be blind for the rest of. Now I really, my antenna went up, and I asked him why. And he said, hey, because they develop cataract when they are babies. The parents don't know because they don't have any medical system, health system like we have here. It goes unnoticed till the kid is 3 or 4 years old. Parents find out, oh, can't see properly. Then they wait till there is a free clinic like that, and then he charges 1,000 rupees, so they don't bring to them. He said it was just a little too late. That evening when I came back, I was staying in a small hotel in Veranasi. We hadn't started anything. Believe me, I literally cried because I could not see the justice of a 5-year-old kid going blind for the rest of their life. And for what? For these lousy little vitamin A pills that cost you cents. And believe me, that evening I had my answer that I went looking there for. I said to myself, if I could save 10 kids like those in a year, I'll consider my mission accomplished. And believe me, we have saved hundreds of kids now. We are 60 villages. Those 60 villages are cataract-free as far as children are concerned, because it doesn't take much. Right after their birth, you give them these pills, 2 or 3 pills in a year that takes care of it. So that's how I got involved in this. Then this is how we started. I'll be moving pretty quickly now. This was a mobile clinic we built in India. Got built, I didn't build it, where you can have a doctor, a pharmacist, a nurse that would go from village to village, and an ambulance. We purchased because there was no ambulance service in these villages. The city took half a day to get there. If someone had a heart attack, there was no chance to die. So we started that, and we purchased a piece of land where we wanted to do some construction. This was in 2001. We cleaned it up. As you can see, that's the only space cleaned. That was less than half an acre. And fast forward, this is what it looks like now. This is the residential quarters for our doctors and so forth. This is the prevention building. And this is what it looks like, that area. This is the hospital building. You can see solar panels there in these villages. We are lucky if we get 2 hours of power. So I wanted to do that from the beginning, but there was no technology in 2002 for solar in India. When I went and kept waiting and waiting, by 2005 or 6, now they had started building solar panels and so forth. And really with the Rotary grants, we have built all those solar units. Rotary has, from day one, from 2002 on, every president in this club has given us a major grant, and therefore I take this opportunity to thank every one of you for helping us, because without that I couldn't do it. This is our staff. This picture was taken about 3 years ago. I was about to be returning back to the States, and I said in the morning when they all are there, otherwise they go out in the field, hey, get together, line up, I want to take a picture. Can you guess, do you see anything odd about this picture? Okay, so that's what, since it was an instant camera, you know, I didn't have to wait to come back here, get the pictures developed. I said, hey guys, what did you do here? And I showed them. They said, what did I do? Nothing, we did nothing. Well, I said, this won't go in the United States. All I see are men here. And they said, oh yeah, but believe me, it was not deliberate. That's the way the culture is. So I gave them 2 more minutes. I said, okay, line up once again. And here is what we got. believe me, out of 60 staff, 40 of them are women. But over there, you just don't think about it. Lined up, men in the front, women. So this is for just a little bit of a lighter side. These are the two programs we started there, a curative program where we treat outpatient, inpatient service, wards, 24/7 emergency, ambulance service, baby delivery. But this is my biggest focus from the very beginning, the prevention program, where we give nutrition to pregnant women and children under 5 years of age. Every village that we adopt, we have the full survey of the village, and we pick the pregnant women every year. We start giving them the nutrition, which includes protein, multivitamins, calcium, folic acid, iron, the whole thing that a pregnant woman needs. All through her pregnancy, 9 months, once she delivers the baby and is breastfeeding, she still gets the same nutrition. Once this child starts eating, which is from the age of 6 months to 12 months, we switch the nutrition to the child and follow for 5 years. Vaccination for everyone, prenatal care that was unheard of. Even in the cities, they don't understand prenatal care. We give prenatal care for these women. So vaccination for everyone, health education. Every month we have audiovisual facilities, vans that go out for that, and family planning. I knew from the day one that if they keep producing children like they had 5 to 10 children per family, you will always be behind the 8th ball. And believe me, if you have the persistence, it works. In 12 years, it's changed. So curative program, I'll show you some pictures again very quickly. From 2000 to 2004, when we didn't have a hospital building, of course, the mobile clinic would go and stay out. Patients line up, get their medicine. This was our first building. Half of it was for our residents, and half of it, 20 feet by 20 feet, was our hospitals. And you will see a couple of pictures within that 20 feet by 20 feet. At night, we would have half a dozen to a dozen patients who would be sleeping on the ground. While they would be sleeping, if there was an emergency, this is what it would be. This guy was badly burnt. The people are sleeping right over there. They were taking care of them. And sometimes, not all the times, we would have a delivery too. Right behind that, we had a bathroom where there was space for shower. The space for shower was used for this. A 5 feet by 2 feet table where we would do the delivery, and the woman stayed there these women on that table for 2 or 3 nights. They never could sleep on their back because there was no space. The baby would fall off if they did that. So this is how this was 2004. We had cholera epidemic. There was no building at that time here, no hospital building. We had 2 trees. These people are dehydrated. That's what cholera is. You provide them fluid, they will be saved. They tied a string between 2 trees, hang these drip bottles, and help 40 to 50 people every day for about 2 months. Since 2005, things changed. We had our hospital there. Here is the office for the doctor. That's our senior doctor, a little happy girl after getting her medicine. Emergency, this boy was badly burned. Another emergency, we get a lot of emergency cases, especially women. This woman was almost 70% burned, waist up. And it's physical violence, family violence. From that, we get a lot of cases. Here is a boy who was getting a cast because he broke his legs. Now no one sleeps on the ground. We have proper beds for patients. He was not smiling that much when he came. Now he was cured, so he was smiling. Now we have a full room. That's our nurse. This is the delivery room. After delivery, the baby and the mom are moved to the inpatient ward. We purchased this radiant warmer with a Rotary grant. they have a lot of premature births in these villages, and these babies die if they were born at the age of 6 or 7 months because their body temperature drops, and if you don't control, they die. We purchased this thing. This was only, I think, $2,000 or $3,000. It's meant for one baby. That day we had 3 of them, so all 3 were saved. So we are literally saving lives with your help. An X-ray machine from Rotary grant, an ultrasound machine from a Rotary grant. We are doing cataract surgeries, not for babies, but for older folks. This was patients who came back from cataract. These are not your Hollywood actors or actresses. They just came back. And here is one white person, Larry Ziliaks. He was the Rotary governor, our district governor that year. And he was visiting. It just so happened he was there for 2 days. And these folks came back, so far we have had 4 or 5 district governors, starting with Chris Holmes, then Larry Ziliaks, then Bob Stowell and Diann went there. Preventative program, I'll show you a couple of pictures. This was our staff a few years ago. This is how we have a lot of field workers who go out in the field, because now our villages, 60 villages, some of them are 10 miles from the main center. So we give them all bikes, and that was also from a Rotary grant. In the morning, they come to the hospital and then bike away to their villages. This is the way we are doing prenatal care. That's our doctor is measuring blood pressure of this pregnant woman. We take their weight and really monitor everything. If they have a major issue, we call them to our hospital. This is how they get the nutrition. Most of them are either pregnant women or they have children under 5 years of age. They get this nutrition can, which lasts for a month. This was my friend from Plymouth Congregational Church visiting there, I think, 4 years ago. This is our health worker. Plymouth Congregational is a big supporter of ours, like the Oak Grove Presbyterian. For all children, we take their full statistics, their weight, we plot their growth charts and really follow them. This is another picture where the kid is carrying the nutrition. We are also giving nutrition at kindergarten schools where you have kids under 5 years of age. Here is vaccination. She is not a very happy woman when getting her shot. I guess she was pregnant, so she is getting her shots. We do health care. Those villages where we find indoor facilities, we do the audiovisual program like that. In some other villages where they live in huts, there are no indoor facilities, we do it outdoors. That's our doctor giving the health care program. We also are doing the healthcare program at high schools so that the kids could learn and teach their parents. It's difficult for parents to change, as you can imagine. So our hope is that the kids who are just graduating high school, 15, 16, 18 years old, they will go back and help change their parents' lives. This is the family planning program. This is our field worker. They go and talk to women in the pregnancy age, 16 years to 55 years of age, not to force anything out of them, but simply provide education and empower them to make decisions. Our field workers will tell them, hey, this is how you can do family planning, contraceptives, condoms, pills, tubal ligation, diaphragm. You decide between you, your husband, and your in-laws. Then you tell us what you want. We provide it free of cost, but we will not force anything on you. And believe me, it has worked. I'll skip this. We have been from day one in the polio program in 2002 when I first started going. At that time, there were 7 countries that were not yet polio-free. India was on the top. 76% of the world cases were in India. And believe me, 80% of those in India were in our area, the eastern areas. Now, 2 years ago, India was declared polio-free. But here are a couple of pictures. This was 2003. our nurse was giving polio shots in these areas where they lived in huts. Similarly, another picture, our pharmacist giving polio shot. This was in 2003, and we have done it every year from there on. Now 2013, Diann Kirby giving the shot, and several other Rotarians who wanted to have the experience of giving the polio shot. Yeah, we are building bathrooms, as Mary pointed out earlier, and the reason was that all these years when I was going there, by 2005 or 6, I found out that kids were dropping out of school, and talked to the community there too. They said, hey, kids go out in the fields like adults do there too for their necessities, for their bathroom. Well, the girls often stopped going to school because at the age of puberty, by the time they get to 12 years, 13 years, they don't want to go and sit outside. So I noticed that and found out, talking to the people, came back here, got a Rotary grant to start building toilets for schools. Now in the last 3 years, we have built toilets for 40 schools. This was when Diann was visiting here. They inaugurated this particular toilet. She cut the ribbon, and also Bob Stowell, who was the DG at that year. They both cut, he cut the boys' room, she cut the ribbon on the girls' bathroom, and they both waved. That was a big thing at that school. This was the group that went there. You can recognize some of them. Here's Don Stiles, Bob Erickson, Leslie, and Nancy, and that was Bob Stowell, Diann. Here is, to summarize, I just like to show you that in 2002, when we started in our curative program, we had 15 villages serving 15,000 people. By 2014, last year, we have over 70 villages, about 45,000 people. But we froze this program 3 years ago. Every year we are about the same level because I wanted to expand in the preventative program. That's where the biggest bang for the buck is. And we went from 1 village in 2002 to 60 villages, which is serving over 180,000 people. So between the curative program and the preventative program, we are serving almost 250,000 people a year. And here is the bottom line. We have a staff of 60 serving 200,000 people, salaries of all the 60 staff, all medicine, all nutrition, vaccination, everything. We do it for a little less than $150,000. Just think about, folks, you couldn't hire more than half a doctor here for that money if you were lucky. Here we are doing all that for your money. So a dollar goes a long way there. And our overhead is only about 1%. All the money goes to, I don't take any salary. And as Mary mentioned, I spent 6 months there. And whatever my life is left, I'm devoting to the cause. And folks, we are changing lives. That's the end of my talk.
Abul, when you started this 13 years ago, did you ever envision it would be where it is now? Two-part question. Did you ever envision that it would be like it is now? And then looking ahead, devoting the rest of your life, what do you think it will be 5 or 10 years from now?
Good questions. What did I think in 2002, where it will go? I didn't even know if I would be alive by now, because being a business person at that time too, in 2002, before starting, I asked myself the question, hey, if I drop dead tomorrow, which could happen, that was 12, 13, 14 years ago, what then? And I didn't have an answer, probably nothing. But I never imagined that we would come this far. Honestly, I just, as I mentioned to you in the beginning, I thought if I could save 10 kids like those from cataract, I'll be a happy guy. Well, it has come a long way. Of course, you could say my effort, but without your help, it couldn't happen. It takes both of those ingredients to make something like this happen. And the answer to your second question was, how far do I think we'll go?
Where will it be 5 or 10 years?
Only time will tell. As Mary mentioned, I'm planning to start a school there. I hope I'm alive another 5 years that I could build that school and that could keep going. Yes, ma'am.
Is anybody replicating what you've done in other regions?
That's what my hope from the beginning was. That's an excellent question, and we are working on it now too. But the reason, especially the preventative program, I did it like a model that, hey, and it took us 4 or 5 years to understand that the critical mass was 12 villages. First, we went from 1 village to 4, 5 to 12. By then, I found out, doing an analysis, that 12 villages was the most cost-effective. If we built 13, it wouldn't be as cost. You couldn't do that. If you did 11, it wouldn't be. So from there on, every time we added 12 villages. And my hope was that not only me would be duplicating, but others would replicate it. To be honest with you, it hasn't happened, but I haven't given hope because it's like a franchise now. We can give them all the know-how, what to do, how to do, without any cost, but others have to do. Yeah?
That was really inspiring and truly remarkable. I know someone doing a similar type of work, but not to your scale in Africa. And I'm wondering if you would be willing to have a conversation and share some.
Absolutely, I'll be honored to. I'll be happy to do that. That's a part of the thing. Because we are, you know, the name of our organization there in India is Mano Khidmat Foundation, which means Mano is humanity. Khidmat is service. We are serving human beings, whether they are in Africa or India or whoever, wherever. So I'll be happy to any time you like. Yes,
Say, Abul, I know there's been some conversation before, maybe of a dream or a goal of maybe, not necessarily the government, the Gates Fund. There's other organizations that could help leverage this and kind of take this to another level that you might now see. Any more conversation on that or any more traction?
A lot of conversation every single year since 2012, 2002. To Gates, we have gone 4 times. And my bottom line now from this experience is, unless I know someone at Gates, because there are thousands of hands stretched out, who is Abul, who is IBC, why would he even look at our website? I have to find someone who knows him or Melinda Gates and introduces us. From there on, yes, if I have a foot in the door, I'm sure I can convince him to not spend millions, just part of $1 million. But I haven't had success yet.
Thank you, Abul, and I'm sure you'd be happy to stay around and answer additional questions.
Thank you so much. Don't go away. And based on what you've heard, I'm sure you agree that Abul is a gift to the world. And as in appreciation for your speaking presentation today, a donation to to end polio will be made in your name to End Polio Now, the signature project of Rotary International. In the early 1980s, there were almost 400,000 cases of polio in the world each year. And Rotary decided to join with other organizations to lead the eradication of polio in the world. We are so close to eradicating this devastating disease, and certainly we have ended in India, which I did have the great opportunity to visit India and help deliver some of the polio drops, which was great. So in 2015, we have had 33 cases limited to 2 countries. Success over polio will help fuel the energy for which people of the world can do when they work together. And so with that, here is a certificate from us, and here is an End Polio Now button. Thank you very much.